Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki. Introduction. Picture this. It's 1956, and a 9-year-old boy is sitting on his porch, crushed. The sun is blazing outside. Perfect beach weather. But he won't be feeling that ocean breeze today. Why? Because his wealthy friend's mother just delivered a gut punch that no kid should ever hear. She told him he couldn't join them at their beach house for the weekend. The reason? He was a poor kid. Ouch, that stings worse than a jellyfish, doesn't it? But here's the thing about rejection. Sometimes it doesn't break you. Sometimes it forges you. This moment lit a fire in young Robert Kiyosaki that would burn for decades. He marched straight home to his father, a brilliant man with a Ph.D. who ran education for the entire state of Hawaii, and asked the million-dollar question, "Dad, can you tell me how to get rich?" His father looked up from his newspaper with that classic dad expression, "You know the one," and said, "Well, son, if you want to be rich, you have to learn to make money." When Robert pressed him on how to actually do that, his father just smiled and said, "Use your head." Translation: "Kid, I have absolutely no idea." Now, here's where Robert got lucky, because he had a secret weapon, a second father figure, his best friend's dad. This guy never finished 8th grade, but he was building an empire that would eventually make him one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. Talk about a plot twist. These two father figures couldn't have been more different. One would say the love of money is the root of all evil. The other? The lack of money is the root of all evil. One taught him how to craft the perfect resume to land a good job. The other taught him how to write a bulletproof business plan to create jobs. One struggled financially his entire life, despite his genius-level intellect and government pension. The other died, leaving tens of millions of dollars to his family and charities. This is the legendary story of having two dads, a rich dad and a poor dad, and the mind-bending, often contradictory lessons they taught. The book we're diving into today, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has sold over 40 million copies and completely rewired how millions of people think about money, work, and wealth. It's basically the financial version of The Matrix. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And here's my promise to you. By the end of our time together, you're going to understand the fundamental secret that the rich teach their children about money, a secret that the poor and middle class completely miss. You'll discover why working for a paycheck might actually be one of the riskiest things you can do. And you'll learn how to start building real wealth, not by grinding harder, but by understanding how money truly works. This isn't just about getting rich. It's about achieving financial freedom. So buckle up. Let's begin. Book summary. Lesson 1. The rich don't work for money. Okay, let's rewind to where it all started. 9-year-old Robert and his best friend Mike are sitting there, feeling broke and pathetic. They decide they want to get rich. So, naturally, they do what any entrepreneurial kids would do. They start a business. Their brilliant idea? Melting down old toothpaste tubes to mint their own coins. Yeah, that didn't work out. Turns out counterfeiting is frowned upon, even when you're 9. But Mike's dad, Rich Dad, sees something special in their hustle. He offers to teach them about money, but with one condition. They have to work for him for free. 10 cents an hour? Nope. Try 0 cents an hour, for 3 hours every Saturday. Just them, dusting cans and shelves in his convenience store like tiny indentured servants. Robert's furious. He storms into Rich Dad's office, ready to quit. "This is exploitation," he yells. And Rich Dad? He just smiles. "Good," he says. "You're angry. Perfect. Now you're ready to learn." Here's the bombshell. Rich Dad explains that most people are trapped in a vicious cycle driven by two emotions: fear and greed. Fear of not having money makes you get up and go to work. Then greed whispers in your ear about all the things you could buy if you just made more money. So you work harder, get a raise, and nothing changes. You just buy more stuff, take on more expenses, and need more money. Hamster, meat wheel. Rich Dad calls this the RAT race. And here's the kicker. Your paycheck isn't setting you free. It's actually your prison guard. So then, Robert asks, what's the answer? Working for free forever? No, Rich Dad says. The answer is learning to make money work for you, instead of you working for money. Mind blown. Rich Dad wasn't teaching them to be employees. He was teaching them to think like owners and investors, to see opportunities where others see obstacles, to build systems that generate income while they sleep. And that unpaid job? That was the first lesson. Not everything valuable comes with a price tag attached. Sometimes the best education costs nothing, except your time and your ego. Lesson 2. Why teach financial literacy? Pop quiz. What's the #1 skill you need to build wealth? If you said make a lot of money, bizzed, wrong answer. Thanks for playing. The real answer? Financial literacy. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep and how hard that money works for you. Rich Dad breaks it down with brutal simplicity. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability. And then, here's the secret. Buy assets. That's it. That's the whole game. Sounds simple, right? But here's where it gets spicy. Rich Dad's definition of these terms is going to blow up everything you think you know. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Okay, easy enough. You're thinking, but then Rich Dad drops the bomb. Your house is not an asset. Wait, what? But my house is appreciating, you protest. It's my biggest investment, my real estate agent said. Rich Dad doesn't care. He asks, does it put money in your pocket every month, or does it take money out? Mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, HOA fees. That house is sucking money out of your pocket faster than a teenager with a credit card at the mall. According to Rich Dad's definition, your house is a liability. This was the most controversial part of the book when it came out, and people still argue about it. But look at it through the lens of cash flow, and it makes perfect sense. Rich people acquire assets. Poor people have expenses. The middle class? They buy liabilities that they think are assets. Here's a simple diagram that'll change your life. The poor have income that barely covers their expenses. Nothing left over. The middle class earn more money, so they buy a bigger house, a nicer car, better furniture, all liabilities that create even more expenses. They're trapped in a cycle of earning and spending, earning and spending. They look rich, but their balance sheet tells a different story. The rich? They focus on building their asset column. Stocks, bonds, real estate that generates rental income, intellectual property, businesses. These assets generate income that exceeds their expenses, and they use that extra income to buy more assets. It's a virtuous cycle that compounds over time. The fundamental difference between the rich and everyone else isn't talent or luck or even hard work. It's understanding this simple diagram and living your life accordingly. Master this, and you've cracked the code. Lesson 3. Mind your own business. Here's a curveball for you. Rich Dad says you should keep your day job. Wait, didn't he just tell us not to work for money? What gives? Here's the genius of it. Keep your day job, but mind your own business. Your job is your profession, what you do from 9 to 5 to pay the bills. But your business is your asset column. That's what you should be obsessing over. Most people confuse their profession with their business. They say, I'm a lawyer, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a doctor. No, that's what you do. That's not your business. Your business is building wealth. Your business is your asset column. So what qualifies as a real asset? Rich Dad lays out the options. Businesses that don't require your presence, you own them, but other people run them. Stocks and bonds. Real estate that generates income. Royalties from intellectual property, music, books, patents. Anything else that generates income, appreciates in value, and has a ready market. The moment you get paid, before you pay anyone else, before the government, before your mortgage company, before your credit card bills, pay yourself first. Put money into your asset column. Start small if you have to, $10, $20, whatever. Just start. Rich Dad tells a story about Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's. At a business school Q&A, someone asked him what business he was in. Hamburgers. They all assumed. But Ray shocked them. I'm not in the hamburger business. I'm in the real estate business. McDonald's doesn't make its fortune from burgers. It makes a killing from the real estate underneath those golden arches. The hamburgers are the profession. The real estate is the business. Mind-blowing, right? So start minding your business. Feed your asset column. Let it grow. Water it daily. And watch what happens. Lesson 4. The history of taxes and the power of corporations. Let's talk about something super fun. Taxes. Okay, nobody actually thinks taxes are fun. But here's where it gets interesting. Did you know that income tax is a relatively recent invention? In the United States, it only became permanent in 1913. Before that, no income tax. People kept what they earned. But here's the wild part. The income tax was originally sold to the public as a way to punish the rich. Sounds great, right? Stick it to the wealthy. But guess what happened? The rich didn't just sit there and take it. They found a loophole, and that loophole was called a corporation. Here's how the game works. If you're an employee, you get taxed on your gross income immediately, before you see a dime. The government takes its cut first, and you get whatever's left over. It looks like this. Earn right pointing arrow. Get taxed. Right pointing arrow, SPEND. But if you own a corporation, the game is completely different. Earn right pointing arrow. Spend right pointing arrow. Get taxed. You earn money through your business. Then you spend that money on legitimate business expenses, equipment, travel, education, staff, marketing, meals with clients. Then, after all that spending, you pay taxes on what's left. See the difference? Employees work and get taxed. Business owners work, spend, and then get taxed. Rich Dad explains, financial IQ is made up of knowledge from 4 broad areas: accounting, investing, understanding markets, and the law. Understanding the legal structure of corporations gives you massive advantages. You don't have to be a lawyer or an accountant to use a corporation, but you do need to understand the basics, because that knowledge, that's power. That's how the rich protect themselves and their wealth. The point isn't to cheat or be unethical. It's to play the game by the actual rules, not the rules you've been told exist. The rich didn't write the tax code, but they sure know how to read it. Lesson 5. The rich invent money. Ever wonder why some people seem to get lucky all the time? They're always in the right place at the right time. They find deals nobody else saw coming. They make money seem to appear out of thin air. Here's the secret. They're not lucky. They're prepared. And they see opportunities where others see nothing. Rich Dad teaches that there are two types of investors. Type 1. People who buy packaged investments. These folks call a financial advisor, hand over their money, and hope for the best. They buy mutual funds, stocks recommended by CNBC, whatever's hot. They're passive. They're hoping. Type 2. People who create investments. These are the professional investors who assemble opportunities. They understand markets. They see trends. They know how to negotiate. They invent money. Robert shares a powerful example. During the recession in the early 1990s in Phoenix, Arizona, the real estate market crashed. Houses that were worth $100,000 were suddenly selling for $75,000 or less. Panic everywhere. But Robert didn't panic. He saw opportunity. He found a house in foreclosure. The owner owed $75,000, but the house was worth $100,000 in normal conditions. Robert offered $60,000. The bank accepted. Then he immediately found a buyer, willing to pay $75,000. He structured a deal where the buyer paid him a $2,500 down payment, and Robert carried the financing himself. Total time invested, 3 days. Money out of pocket, 0. Profit, $2,500 immediately, plus monthly cash flow from the financing. That is inventing money. It's not about luck. It's about financial intelligence, market knowledge, and creativity. Rich Dad emphasizes, in the real world, it's not the smart who get ahead, it's the bold. You can be the smartest person in the room. You can analyze every deal to death. But if you never pull the trigger, you'll stay broke. Fear keeps most people poor. Fear of losing money. Fear of looking stupid. Fear of what others think. The rich have fear too, but they manage it. They educate themselves. They take calculated risks. And they don't wait for opportunities to come to them. They create opportunities. Lesson 6. Work to learn. Don't work for money. Let's end with what might be the most practical lesson of all. Robert once met a young journalist. Talented writer. Best-selling book to her name. But she was broke. She was struggling to pay her bills. So Robert offered her a deal. Come work for me. I'll teach you how to sell and how to market. Within a year, you'll be a best-selling author who actually makes money. She looked at him like he'd lost his mind. I'm a writer, not a salesperson. Robert picked up one of his books and pointed to the cover. It says, best-selling author, not best writing author, he explained. I'm a terrible writer. You're a great writer. I went to sales school. You have a master's degree. Put them together, and you get a best-selling author and a best writing author. She refused. Couldn't do it. She was just one skill away from great wealth, and she walked away. The world is full of talented poor people, brilliant artists, genius engineers, incredible chefs. They focus obsessively on perfecting their craft, but they know nothing about business systems, marketing, or sales. McDonald's doesn't make the best burger in the world, but they're the absolute best at business systems. That's why they're everywhere. So here's Rich Dad's advice. Seek work for what you will learn, not just what you will earn. Before you get trapped in the rat race, look down the road. Ask yourself, what skills do I want to acquire? Don't just take the highest paying job. Take the job that will teach you the most valuable skills. Robert himself, after serving in the Marines to learn leadership and management, took a job at Xerox. Why? Because they had one of the best sales training programs in America. He was shy. He was terrified of selling. But he knew he had to conquer that fear to succeed. He worked there for 4 years, became one of their top salespeople, and then quit to start his own business. He wasn't working for the paycheck. He was working to learn. Young people often ask him, "What should I do? Which job should I take?" His answer is always the same. Look at where you want to be in 5 years. What skills will you need to get there? Then, find the job that teaches you those skills. The most valuable skills for wealth building? Sales and marketing, financial literacy, accounting and investing, communication and negotiation, leadership and management, understanding legal systems. You don't need to be the best at all of them, but you need to be competent in each area, because when you combine multiple skills, you become exponentially more valuable and more capable of creating opportunities. So there you have it, the 6 core lessons from Rich Dad. They're not just about money, they're a mindset. A way of seeing the world that's fundamentally different from what most of us are taught. It's a shift from being a passive passenger in your financial life to grabbing the wheel and driving, from being pushed around by life to charting your own course. Commentary. So what do we take away from all of this? Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't a step-by-step blueprint. It won't tell you exactly which stocks to buy or what real estate to invest in. Its power lies in something way deeper. It fundamentally changes how you see money and wealth. It's designed to wake up the financial genius that Kiyosaki believes is sleeping inside every single one of us. For me, the most profound lesson is the redefinition of wealth itself. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep and how hard that money works for you. True wealth is measured in time. How long could you survive if you stopped working today? That's a powerful question. One that forces you to look beyond the paycheck and toward building a system for financial freedom. The idea that your house is not an asset, that's the concept that slaps people awake. But when you look at it through the simple lens of cash flow, it makes perfect sense. Does it put money in your pocket or take it out? This simple, almost childlike definition cuts through all the complex financial jargon and gets straight to the heart of what builds wealth. It forces us to be brutally honest about our spending habits and the liabilities we've been told are assets. And perhaps the most empowering message: work to learn, not just to earn. In a world that's changing faster than ever, specialization can be a trap. The skills that are valuable today might be obsolete tomorrow. Kiyosaki's advice to become a generalist, to learn about accounting, investing, marketing, sales, and law, is more relevant now than ever before. It's about building a toolbox of skills that allows you to adapt, spot opportunities, and create your own path, rather than depending on a single employer for your security. So, where do you start? It can feel overwhelming, right? But Kiyosaki emphasizes starting small. The journey doesn't begin with $1 million investment. It begins with a single choice, and that choice is to invest in your greatest asset, your mind. Want one simple, practical action you can take today? Here it is. For the next month, track every single dollar you spend. Not to judge yourself, just to become aware. At the end of the month, look at your spending and ask yourself this simple question for each expense. Did this purchase an asset or a liability? Did this put money in my pocket or take it out? That one small act of awareness is the first step out of the rat race. It's the beginning of thinking like the rich. That was a deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. We've explored the core lessons today, but let's be real. A summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you read the book for yourself. It's in those quiet moments when a particular story or a simple phrase hits you in a way you didn't expect. This podcast is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I genuinely encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see your financial future. You'll find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the Billionaire's Bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.